Bearing in mind that 16 African countries are landlocked, underdeveloped transport connectivity hampers intra-Africa trade and drives up the cost of imports and exports with regard to other parts of the world. To further illustrate this point, I remind you of the confinement, which I just said, of value-added Kenyan tea destined for Ghana, which left, and I was there with Wamkele, which left Nairobi on the 5th of October, but it got to the port of Tema in February the next year. The current level of lack of connectivity is a great impediment to our progress as a continent. And therefore, the Agenda 2063, which speaks with clarity on what type of infrastructure that we need to be able to connect our countries, eliminate the barriers that are erected by our boundaries, and human capital and human beings who hamper trade. These are unnecessary impediments to trade and investment in our region. The current level of technology in the fields of infrastructure development across sectors is fairly high. This dialogue is a golden opportunity for African private sector and African governments to deploy the concept of technology leapfrogging, thereby ensuring that advanced technologies are incorporated into priority infrastructure investments. Similarly, the implementation of the single African air transport market must be attended to in this dialogue with particular urgency. Already there is a conversation between Kenya, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Uganda, on how we can consolidate our air transport and have a regional airline that can move people, that can move goods, that can move services across our region without the current unnecessary impediments caused by air transport fragmentation. Similarly, the implementation of this will define the opportunities for private sector to invest in a liberalized air transport sector and enhance our air traffic penetration from the current 14.5%. African integration will also benefit significantly from this endeavor. The overarching methodology of the Africa we want is to transcend all the shortcomings, gaps, and vulnerabilities currently impeding Africa's progress and potential by redefining them as transformational opportunities for private-public collaboration. Public-private partnerships have the potential to augment the program for infrastructure development, as well as the African Development Bank's initiative to facilitate projects aimed at bridging the continent's infrastructure gap to sustainably support connectivity. I will give you an example. We're now diversifying on how to transport energy. We do not have to invest as government on transmission lines. We believe the private sector can invest in transmission lines so that we can pay a willing charge as government, leverage on the expertise of the private sector, on the resources of the private sector, enhance private sector capacity to be able to work with us as governments on the delivery of public programs, whether it is supply of energy, whether it is transmission of energy, or in the case of Kenya, we are now having a whole program on how to deliver water on a water purchase agreement instrument that allows the private sector to work with us in ensuring that we can deliver water, drinking, for irrigation, for use by livestock, to our people. And therefore, there is opportunity for the private sector to work with the public in areas that were considered strictly public goods space. I trust that I have adequately made out the case for the high level of expectations I have in connection with this dialogue. I anticipate your recommendations and policy proposals on the best methods of developing Africa's transcontinental and interregional infrastructure. I also expect that this dialogue will propose optimal private-public partnership frameworks to accelerate our infrastructure development agenda. This moment requires us to be bold and ambitious in fashioning our way up from the bottom of the global trade, productivity, and industrialization. I encourage you to extend your deliberations into such possibilities as African shipping lines, dedicated cargo airlines, and a network of trans-Africa railway lines laid down by each country across its territory that connect seamlessly across our borders. We are currently having a conversation between Kenya, Uganda, DRC, including Congo Brazzaville, to see how we can connect the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic. I think there is only a section of 1,000 kilometers of rail, and that should be connected. And as countries, we are prepared to work on it together, that we can do our section in Kenya. Uganda are already working on their section. We are discussing with the government of DRC to see how together we can get the resources to get the 1,000 kilometers in DRC connected into the Congo River and transport our goods and products across the heartland of Africa. A vital area that I will expect this dialogue to effectively address is the matter of sustainable financing. The opportunity is ripe for governments to collaborate with the private sector and establish a strong institution capable of de-risking African infrastructure development financing. The partnership between Afrexim Bank and ACFTA Secretariat for purposes of establishing an adjustment fund is timely, highly appropriate, and commendable. Such a fund would cushion countries against short-term revenue losses and support eligible private sector firms to upscale operational capacity in order to undertake projects and other opportunities on a continental scale. It is